Welcome to the Hawkeye Season 1 review. I'm your host, Shyam Punnachalil, and I'm joined by my co-host, Pranav Sriraman. Pranav, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing good. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to the MHS News Production YouTube channel for the best news content. With that being said, let's get right into it. So, Pranav, what were some main takeaways that you noticed and got from Hawkeye Season 1?
Yeah, so some of my main takeaways were I really liked the character development we saw from both Kate Bishop and the introduction of Kate Bishop, obviously. But I like the character development we saw from Kate Bishop throughout the course of the entire season, but also the character development we saw from Clint Barton throughout the course of the entire season. Coming into the season, we knew who Clint was. He was Hawkeye, this Avenger, the superhero, but we also knew he was the rogue vigilante, or formerly the rogue vigilante known as Ronin, who was a serial killer and just went and attacked mobs and gangs. And so, regarding that, I really like the character development regarding Clint in the context that he went from this guy who was just all about himself and going out there and just killing random people to really attempting to clear his name and change as a person, because not only did Natasha give him a second chance to live on Vormir in Avengers Endgame, but he also wanted to protect his family, wanted to be a changed man for his family. And I also like the mentorship mentality he took on. Early on, he was super against bringing Kate on board for his mission. But as the season progressed, he noticed Kate's talent and really brought her along. So I thought that was great to see. And regarding Kate, we saw her as this innocent Peter Parker-esque sidekick who was just trying to impress her hero, her lifetime role model. And then throughout the course of the season, we saw her mature and become the superhero right next to him and be right there for the action. So I thought that was really cool to see, and that was a main takeaway for me.
I actually agree with you. I really liked how Kate Bishop is like Spider-Man because they both have one thing in common, two things in common that I really liked about them both. And what I liked about Peter, his MCU version, by the way, I really liked how he looked up to the Avengers, specifically Iron Man, and I really like how Kate looks up to Hawkeye. And it's something that it really helped the story for Kate because she really showed how she was interested in archery and just helping people out in general. She looked up to Hawkeye, and I like seeing how Hawkeye. At first he was very, he was not really interested in talking to Kate. He really wanted to distance himself from Kate, and it's cool to see him kind of growing out of that phase of being antisocial around people. It was cool to see people talk to him and him talking to people who looked up to him. So that's something I really liked. And I also just like how Peter and Kate talk. So that's something I really liked about them.
Yeah, and regarding another point that I saw that was of massive emphasis throughout the entire season, or more so towards the finale, in the final two episodes, we saw the introduction of Wilson Fisk, also known as Kingpin, into MCU canon, and that's going to be huge because Wilson Fisk we saw in Into the Spider-Verse, we saw in the Spider-Man 2018 PlayStation video game, and throughout the comics, just in history, he's one of the biggest Marvel villains there is, biggest Spider-Man villains there is. So the introduction of him, bringing him in New York City, I think that's huge. It sets up a lot of new storylines for the MCU moving forward. Um, I thought it was interesting. For the record, I don't think they killed him off. That you just cannot kill Wilson Fisk off as soon as you bring him into the universe because there's so much more to explore with him. And in the comics, Maya or Echo, when she shot him, she shot his eye, and that seems way more realistic than him being killed because this is Wilson Fisk we're talking about. There were arrows going through his chest, and nothing happened to him. He's been in combat with Spider-Man multiple times in the comics, and he's actually won some battles. So, I mean, this is a guy who's known for tolerating pain at the highest degree. I don't think he's gonna be dead. I think he's gonna still be a really relevant character moving forward, not only in the Hawkeye seasons moving forward, but possibly also in Spider-Man.
Yeah, so the first time I ever saw Kingpin was in the 2018 Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie. And I don't read comic books. I've never read a single Marvel comic book. And when I saw him in Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse movie, I noticed how intimidating and strong he was. And I really like that about villains because specifically when they're intimidating, they challenge the protagonist. And so when I saw that, I really enjoyed that because I like seeing heroes get challenged by other characters because then you really get to see how they can interact and deal with those challenges. And for the case of Hawkeye and Kate, I really like seeing how they had to really overcome and defeat Kingpin. And we don't even know if he's dead. Like you said, he's really strong. He can tolerate pain very well. It's actually weird to
There is
see.
no way he's dead. There is no way he's dead.
Yeah, I don't think he would die from a bullet. Like honestly, I think he's way too strong for that, and I think we can definitely see him in the near future. I want to see what he can do going forward, and that's something I'm really excited to see.
Yeah. So, I mean, another big talking point, which led up to Kingpin even being in the MCU, was Eleanor Bishop, the mother of Kate Bishop, who runs Bishop Security. She was in league, or she was in business with Kingpin. And I think this is going to be a massive storyline moving forward into next season, not just because of obviously she kind of backstabbed Kingpin towards the end, and Kingpin might be out there to get revenge on her, possibly even murder her. But it's going to be interesting to see the dynamic between her and Kate. Kate had her arrested for what she did, and what her actions led to the murder of Jack's uncle. So I mean, um, it's going to be interesting to see that dynamic and how their relationship will ever be the same. I'm guessing probably not, but it is her mother after all, so there's always something out there. And I was just really surprised that Jack was not a villain, or like he was completely clean and like he was helping them fight Kingpin's men, which I thought was really, really weird.
I agree. I was just thrown off by the fact that Jack wasn't prosecuted. He didn't get any jail time for the false accusations, and it was really cool to see because one thing that I want to make note of is how this show wasn't really predictable for me, and that's something that I really like about cinema and TV shows. It's just how what I'm watching, if it's predictable, it doesn't feel exciting. And I really like how it was exciting. And that's something that I think maybe you can agree with too, because the fact that it just threw me off, because I did not expect to see Kingpin in here.
Yeah, yeah. To address that, yeah, this show, I'm guessing it was just it's more so meant to be like a development show, a character development show, introducing Kate, developing Clint mainly as a character, and setting up the next phase of Hawkeye. But it was kind of a roller coaster ride in the sense that you really didn't know what direction it was going to take. Bringing Kingpin, who was a villain in Marvel's Daredevil, into the MCU, making him a prominent face as well, while also addressing the Ronin arc. It was just really topsy turvy.
Yeah, I agree. And for me, honestly, I thought the show was really good. If I were to give it like anything out of 10, probably an 8. I think the one thing I probably don't like is maybe just how Maya seems kind of irrelevant in the latter half of the show because of Kingpin. But that's just because Kingpin steals the show, in my opinion.
Right.
How do you think the show was overall?
Um, if I were to rank, how many shows has Disney and Marvel released together? I would say WandaVision came first, and then it was The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Then it was Loki, and now this. So four. I would say Loki comes number one, and then I would say this comes number two. Hawkeye comes number two. WandaVision comes number three, although you can interchange Hawkeye and WandaVision. And then I would say The Falcon and the Winter Soldier comes four. I would say I would give this show a solid 7.5 out of 10. And I'm not really generous with my rankings ever, but I thought this was a pretty good show, in my opinion. It really sets the standard and really sets the storyline of what we can expect from the MCU moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. And with that being said, thank you guys for tuning in. For every major MCU event, we will be right here breaking it down for you. So make sure to keep your eyes open. But until next time, peace.